began this channel to discuss philosophy and Bitcoin, so I think it's appropriate to discuss both briefly before diving into the weeds. Philosophy is a term attributed to Pythagoras, a philosopher I discuss in another video. The word comes from the Greek words philo, love, and sophia, wisdom. Therefore, philosophy is to love wisdom. However, in today's language, philosophy really carries the meaning of seeking truth. You see, Plato, another philosopher, contrasted philosophy with philodoxy, the love of opinion, referring to the habit of people to cling to opinions no matter what kind of arguments or evidence they receive contrary to those opinions. The philosopher is one that seeks truth rather than stubbornly tries to shield an opinion or position. So what's the connection with Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is a rather new technology, and you might be interested to know that many of the great scientists and innovators in history were philosophers. See, philosophy in its original form was simply the seeking of truth. That includes truth about the natural world, laws of physics, as well as the meaning of life, questions of morality, and so much more. In fact, until the 19th century, many scientists still referred to themselves as philosophers. Charles Babbage, father of computers, titled his autobiography Life of a Philosopher. And to this day, those who receive a doctorate degree are actually called a doctor of philosophy, regardless of their subject of expertise. However, the natural sciences were gradually divorced from philosophy, leaving philosophy today as a subject focused on logic, metaphysics, and ethics. I suspect that part of this was demand from state powers to harness the natural sciences towards the goals of state power, namely control over people, primarily external populations, but also the domestic population. The problem with philosophers is that while they discover and invent, they ask a lot of questions. A philosopher learns by asking questions, and when discovering something, the philosopher asks even more questions. A philosopher cannot just invent a tool or weapon, for instance, without considering the ethical ramifications. This, however, is inconvenient for state powers who simply want discoveries that will further empower the state against foreign populations, and even the domestic one. The Manhattan Project, for example, was a relatively quick project inspired by Germany's atomic program and ultimately used against a greatly weakened Japan without free public discussion. Bitcoin, interestingly, and in contrast, was a technology that was developed over years of intense free and public discussion. Rather than a state-led project, it was born out of the cypherpunk movement, a group of computer geniuses interested in using cryptography to protect people, including their money. They advanced the movement through their dissertations, articles, conferences, and made several attempts at solving the dilemma of money and freedom. Bitcoin was a culmination of these efforts, a decentralized ledger undermining the authority of big banks and authoritative states rather than increasing their power. This is what makes Bitcoin similar to philosophy. Philosophy is also decentralized. Despite the efforts of state powers to create churches, ministries of information, and other departments of propaganda, philosophy remains a free and open source project open to all to participate in. And where state propaganda asks you to obey, philosophy asks you not to obey, but rather to challenge and think. Therefore, on this channel, I don't ask that you subscribe. I don't ask that you like. All that I ask is that you think.